I love a great show, but even better, I love great news. That's what I have with Paul West, CEO of Fumb Games. We've been passing like ships in the night, but now we have an even better reason to chat because you have 10x revenues in a down market. So first of all, I have to say congratulations on that one, Paul. Share a little bit about what you did to do that, because that was the topic here as well as your talk.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Peggy. Great to see you and meet properly. So we 10x'd in 2024 our revenues, which was our biggest growth year by far. Super exciting for us, and we plan to do even more in 2025. But I just did a talk on that actually in a couple of hours ago, which was about all the little intricacies we did to kind of make that happen. No real secret sauce other than like focusing on what worked, which sounds really obvious, but we did really just kind of bolt down on the biggest game that we had. Live ops, monetization, new revenue streams, subscriptions. There was kind of 1,000 things we did, tiny things we did that helped the growth, but it really was a transformative year for the company.
Now you've really piqued my interest because it isn't the one thing. I think the one thing was choosing the game and sticking to that one. That's a really hard decision. You know, it's like, oh, we've got a portfolio of games. Like, no, choose one. So you did choose one at Fumb Games. What was the game then?
So the game was Bitcoin Miner. So that's a game where you dig down into the earth and you actually mine Bitcoin, and we reward players with Bitcoin as they play. So it's kind of an innovative, unique thing. Now, just a sense check, like you will not become a millionaire playing this game. It's small amounts of money you can earn. It's like $10 a month. But it's quite nice for players to have that reward. They buy coffees just from playing a game they enjoy. And that's really interesting. So yeah, that's been our biggest hit to date.
And also, I mean, I speak with so many publishers in the industry, and I remember when we were chatting about crypto last year, it was like, well, you know, you have to make it part of the game, just educate, get people interested, and start, you know, getting the feel of what it is. I mean, you're not giving like the Bitcoins, not the way they're doing this, right? That would be one hell of a game, but no, but you're getting them interested, and you're doing it sort of in steps. What are some learnings about keeping the player? There's one about obviously acquiring them, but then keeping them coming back, because that's going to get them deep into the game, into the gameplay. What did you learn there? Or what did you share during your talk?
Sure thing. So the main thing was being honest. Obviously, a lot of our growth from user acquisition. So we ran a lot of video ads, and we were just truthful with the players. You see a lot of ads these days in rewarded type games where they say, download now, cash out $500 instantly. And, you know, that's just not true. They don't work. They're not. We didn't want to be associated with that. So we're very honest in what we do. We say like the maximum you can earn playing this game is $10 a month. It's a real fun game. It's Bitcoin. Who knows what could happen? It might go up, might go down. So, you know, it's meant to be more fun points and loyalty points. But we find it does help with retention quite a lot. And we've just actually launched a second game at the end of last year, which also worked really well. It's called Idle Mine. Similar concept. You earn Bitcoin, but you're actually mining it with little men holding, or people hitting pickaxes into the rocks. So it's like a symbolism of mining. And that game worked really well as well. So I think it did $1 million in revenue within 60 days from a prototype. So there's definitely positive things that we can find and grow games in the industry. And yeah, hope to see more of that from us in 2025 because we're really focusing on it.
And the monetization model itself, has that evolved with the company? Because I've known you for a while, watched this for a bit, and I have the feeling that all these learnings go back in, and you're also innovating in the monetization model of the game as well. The ad mon is super, super core here.
Yes, exactly. The ad mon is super core. So it's about 70% of our revenue is ad monetization. And we're quite experimental and innovative in what we do with ad monetization. So I think we were one of the first who popped up a little like ad coming soon, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown in the game. So we could prepare users an interstitial ad was coming. That's really effective because it warns the user an ad's coming. So it's polite to do. They're familiar with it because it's like a Netflix type countdown. Something's about to happen with the countdown. And also it gives a cancel button so people can hit cancel and they can, if they like to, purchase remove ads. So it's an option to do it in IAP which of course are also very valuable for us as well. So we like to try and innovate as much as we can in the ad space. I mean, my background is ad colony and ad tech, so I'm very interested in that space naturally. But yeah, there's new partners, like PlayGap, for example, is a new partner we've started using, which monetizes offline ad sessions. That's a really interesting company. We test a lot on the ad side. We kind of over-index on tests there, to be honest.
I knew about the AdMon. I knew that that was big, but I love hearing about the twists and the innovations because it makes a lot of sense to sort of say ad is coming. So that preps me for it. So it's not going to be interruptive. And I'm going to make money on it. I mean, well, you're going to make money on it because I can say, oh, I'd rather skip that. And you did subscriptions. Where did that fit in?
Yeah, subscriptions were pretty interesting because they intimidated us quite a lot. You know, they're quite hard to measure, to track on the back end side because you can pause them, you can cancel them, they obviously repeat. But what we found was we just tried something and it worked. And I'm not going to say it's going to work for everyone, but don't be afraid to try them. And when they work, they really do work. And one of the things I shared in my talk was I have a theory that in-app purchase subscriptions revenue is really important to the platforms, to Apples and Googles. They like that dollar. It's kind of almost worth more to them. So I think it helps the algorithm get you discovered more. That's my theory, not proven. But yeah, it's another reason to try it, I think.
That makes sense. I've spoken with a number of publishers who say, it is a volume game. So it's like the more you bring them, the more they will promote you. So it does make sense. So you brought it all together in your AdMon model. You had rewards, you have in-app purchases, and I also have a subscription. Have you seen that the mix, without cannibalizing one or the other, that's quite a balancing act. Do you have any learnings about that? Because yes, you did it. You said, we'll test it all, and you put it all in there.
It's a great question. We're probably not savvy enough to know how much we cannibalized. There's definitely an element of it because if you pay to remove ads, you never get an ad again in the game, but you can keep earning from the game. So there's probably users who are, who have made a lot more off us than we've made off them. But overall, the net even is kind of a good share, a good margin and revenue share for the players and for us. So yeah, that's a really interesting one. I think what we have seen is that because we've been testing new ad monetization methodologies, that slice of the pie hasn't necessarily increased when we added subscriptions because they've been competing with each other. So they're just constantly fighting, but the overall pie is getting bigger. And that's the really promising thing that we've been doing. And that's why we like to run those tests and test these new partners. So yeah, we'll keep doing that.
So where are you going with the loyalty and that aspect of it? Because you have valuable players. You've identified through the data and through the behavior who they are. And now you want to get more of them. It's going to be digging for those, mining for the cohorts. Let's put it that way. How are you approaching that?
I think there's quite a bit of room left to grow Bitcoin Miner. And Idle Mine on new game is looking better than Bitcoin Miner. So we think we have a big ceiling there. But we're also, a bit of hypocrite, we also have another game that we're working on, which will open up to a much more casual audience. So outside of Idle, outside of Bitcoin, and more of still a rewarded game, but something much more accessible to the average citizen, I should say, because what we find is when we reward the player, there's an instant trust that's been built straight away. Because for a free app, they've got something back instantly. That is so strong. So we've been trying to find a way to open that up to make it so you don't have to have like a Bitcoin wallet to play our game. You could have maybe an Amazon account or something else. That's coming this year, and I really hope that's going to work. But we'll test it and see.
What about when you introduce them? Because it was first the whole idea, you let someone come into the game, get very accustomed to it, sort of get the feel for what they are as a player type and what resonates with them. But I'm hearing so much more about, no, just go in there and start immediately. I don't know if it's because we all saw the phenomenal success of Whiteout Survival where it just comes in, starts to monetize before you knew what hit you, really.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I agree with you. I think like what we've seen over the years is just kind of be upfront, be direct, because you need the eyeballs, you need the impressions on the offers, on the ads, and the earlier the better. On average, works better from an LTV from a business revenue perspective. It may not be the best player experience for individuals, but overall, I think it does drive better business KPIs. To be honest, but then there is a tipping point, right? So you can't bombard users instantly. And I think the app stores do pay quite attention to that. If there's an ad in the first few seconds, for example, I think you can be penalized for that from our tests. So yeah, I think it's a balancing act that should be tested, and that's the best thing about mobile games, especially, is you can A/B test very easily.
I mean, you've tried a lot, Paul. You've tested a lot. That's why you have from 1 million to 10 million in a time when it's a downtime. What was your biggest surprise in that? Because you don't aim for this. I mean, you hope for it, but sometimes things work and you're like, wow, I didn't think that was going to work. What was one of those moments for you?
That's a great question. I think there's a couple. The first one, probably with Bitcoin Miner, was that the user acquisition would work on more and more channels as we tested. And it required us, we're a small company, very small, like we bootstrapped. And one of the things that happened was leaning in and taking a risk that we could push our payback window back. And every day we pushed the payback window back, we saw the UA payback, and it would actually keep coming. So like that was the thing that was a bit of as a founder who wants to pay 20 people's mortgages every month, a bit scary, but we took that risk and it did work carefully, but it did work. I think the second one was our new game, Idle Mine. When we dropped that prototype into the App Store and we saw like 50-cent CPI in the US, 45% day one retention, almost better KPIs than Bitcoin Miner, which we've worked on for about 4 years. We were quite blown away by that. And that is one of the biggest needle drivers in the last quarter for our growth. So that's why we're in a really exciting position for 2025, because we have that game in the locker, we have Bitcoin Miner, and hopefully another coming soon as well.
Was there any level of seasonality to that campaign? Because I mean, those are CPIs that are impressive. Not what I was expecting, because when you talk with everyone in the industry, as I do, it sounded as if we were pricing ourselves out. It was between competition with the e-commerce apps, and because they have games, right? Everyone has a game. So we were going back to things like just ordinary entertainment. So that's very surprising.
Yeah, no, it really is. And I think, we didn't expect those results from the prototype. We've built 100 games in the last 2 years, prototypes, I should say. And so we know when there's something, because we've seen a lot of not something. We've seen a lot of bad. So that was really exciting to see that come in. And obviously the retention stick and the players came around and join Discord and proactively suggest ways we can improve the game. So yeah, it's there's definitely opportunities to innovate still, I think, and grow mobile gaming sector, which is obviously what is working at the moment. So yeah, we'll see.
Well, I'm going to end with that, because you talk about innovation, and I wouldn't be doing my job if we didn't talk about AI, right? AI, where does it fit in at Fumb Games? Is it about creative? Is it about creating process? Because everyone is talking about it. What are you doing with it?
So AI for us touches quite a few departments, actually. So the programmers love it to help them fix their code. Like, that's a no-brainer. I think it's a great addition for that. We subscribe to one of them, ChatGPT, etc., to help the devs with that. We use it slightly on the art to really quickly spit up mocks. So we can find like for example, if I wanted to pitch idea into the company, I can really quickly get a visualization of what I want the rough idea to look like before the artists get it, so they kind of see what's in my head, because I can't draw. So that helps. App icons, definitely, we've seen that work in the past. We started to test AI influencers for creatives. That one's very interesting, where you can write a script and an influencer will speak the script. That's very powerful. We've used that this year. So I think it's like, for me, it's like a marginal gain uplift, or maybe a slightly more than a marginal gain uplift across every department, some more than others. It's not going to replace the department for us, but it's going to enhance it.
Well, sometimes timing is good. We didn't catch up at the last Pocket Gamer Connect, but we did this time, and I could have the opportunity to congratulate you, which I wasn't going to do last year. We didn't know this was coming. You were a bit more sober. I mean, literally. No, I'm just kidding. Literally, but I'm so pleased to see, that test, that learn, that spirit, and that not giving up. I mean, look at it now. you can only go further. Thank you so much, Paul, and wishing you all the best.
Thanks, Peggy.
This show is all about how to do your job better, how to make an amazing game, how to market it, and you have a say. So if you have a story or know someone we need to shine a light on, then we would love to hear from you.
We want to hear from you. We want to reflect the reality of the mobile games market in all its wonderful complexity and strangeness. So if you have any suggestions for us, if you have any feedback for us, you can always get in touch. You can email us at podcast@pocketgamer.biz. You can find us on Twitter at PG.biz, and you can reach out to us through the pocketgamer.biz website. If you're interested in listening to all of our podcasts, you can find them at pocketgamer.biz/podcast, and we would love to hear your thoughts on future shows.
And we've got you covered on all the major platforms, so subscribe to the audio podcast, as Brian said. Look for us on YouTube. If you want to read it, hey, you can do that too, because we have a companion post for you as well on the pocketgamer.biz website.
Tune in again for the next edition of the pocketgamer.biz podcast, and we look forward to speaking to you in the near future. Until then, I'm Brian Baglow.
I'm Peggy Anne Salz, and that's a wrap until next week.